Hi, happy February the 21st. I am actually want to speak a little bit more about Jeffrey Yesterday, I sent an email to Parkline. It was a registered food bank that you have to register over down. I think it's Christchurch. I'm not quite sure of the name, but I do know it's on Parkline Road, down off of Lakeshore Boulevard West. I actually would like to speak about how Jeffrey Wong has been repeatedly, and I was given permission to do this, that Jeffrey Wong has repeatedly spoken to threatened staff members, threatened volunteers throughout Daily Bread Food Bank, not only just through the Welcome Center, INS, the food bank themselves, but in production and in the kitchen. He and another member of the board of directors has threatened volunteers and staff members. He's used racial slurs. He's used threats of taking their jobs away. He's used threats of exposing certain things about families, exposing relationships, and everything like that. Jeffrey Wong has actually has used that as a means to continue to get me out of Daily Bread. He's also used that way in terms of racial slurs to the point where certain members of the staff and volunteers no longer want to be there. He's also actually has been approached by parents of volunteers. He's spoken to volunteers the fact that they're there too much, and he has spoken to certain volunteers and said, we don't want you volunteering too much, because he had personal opinions against them. So this is where I'm at right now. Jeffrey Wong has been charged not only once, but he's been charged twice. He's been charged by the police themselves, have laid charges in terms of the fact that he refused me access to a community service with no just cause and no proof on a surveillance camera. He's been charged. There are pending charges. I have given till Wednesday at 6 p.m. to receive. Now, this may sound like some sort of a vendetta. This may sound like an ultimatum or something. But I spoke to senior staff, and I had said that apparently there was supposed to be 2 meetings on Friday, but because Jeffrey Wong has stated that he's working out his contract till March, and he wanted the trespass warning to go forward because of his allegations against me. And his slander and his discrimination, that is what I've contacted a lawyer for. And they have actually, when I contacted the Legal Aid Clinic in South Etobicoke, they gave me another number to lay specific charges and start a specific personal lawsuit. I had said against the Peoples and Cultures Department, but what it ended up happening, it will be against Daily Bread as a whole. And I don't want it to be as Daily Bread as a whole when it's one person, well, 2, actually, him and Alison Gibbons, and their alignment with Sandra Long, and how they aligned with Sandra Long over at Fire Toronto, and how Murray Smith had also contacted Daily Bread, and they have that recording on Jessica, the person who answered the phone. She has that recording about Murray Smith that they handed that they were giving to the police. So they have that alignment, as well as they have surveillance cameras of Sandra Long and of Jeffrey Wong talking to Sandra Long, and of Jeffrey Wong receiving money from Sandra Long in order to get me out of Daily Bread. So, with that being said, I'm also stated, so I'm not using it as a negotiating tool. The gift cards, after 350 hours of committed service as a volunteer, you are supposed to be recognized and receive a button and $300 worth of gift cards. After 500 hours, you are supposed to be recognized. Committed service as a volunteer, you're supposed to be recognized and given $500 worth of gift cards. I have 698 hours because of Alison Gibbons and Jeffrey Wong and their personal opinions and their slander, discrimination, and I would call it a vendetta against me. was never recognized at 350. I was never recognized at 500. I was never recognized at 600, 650, and I was stopped from going to the Winter Bash, which was a Christmas party on December 10th to recognize volunteers. There's a whole bunch of presents there somewhere for me, which someone had taken home or put in an office somewhere, one of my friends up there, and that were actually bought. The lack of communication in that place is awful. Anyways, they were bought for me to recognize me as having 698 hours, and at the time it would have been 700 hours, but 700 hours plus by the time Winter Bash had entered. But because I left on November 19th, that's why and then it was just like Jeffrey Wong had said he wanted to erase the fact that I was there. One of the staff members did say, a friend of mine did say, that there has been a deep hole left in Daily Bread Food Bank, and until I return, that hole will still be there. And the rippling effect of the volunteers and of the staff members in terms of their anger is horrendous, apparently. The other thing I want to say about Jeffrey Wong and his alignment with Sandra Long, this is going to cause him not only to be charged twice, and when he was charged on the day that I left on Thursday, the 17th, so it would have been Thursday, when he was charged on the 19th, he was given a fine of over $400,000. Jeffrey Wong has not only tried to take over the entire Daily Bread with his opinions, but he has also tried to, he has allowed people like Alison Gibbons to align themselves with Sandra Long, and to allow, he stood there and when they were walking out with food, and when they were walking out with desserts, and when they were desecrating the kitchen, Sandra Long and Alison Gibbons. He allowed Alison Gibbons to come to work repeatedly high on any type of drug. I don't know which drug this is. He allowed Alison Gibbons to come into the People's and Culture's office and fill her desk with rodents. He allowed Alison Gibbons to come into the People's Culture's office and fill her desk with snakes. He allowed Alison Gibbons to walk into that kitchen and put rodents in the kitchen. That's what he allowed. Jeffrey Long, as head of the People's and Cultures Department, has now been, the way I can file charges against him is as slander, my name, identity theft, a form of identity theft, that he is slandering my name because someone else had used my identity, glasses, and hair, and came in and spoke harshly and attacked personally to members of the clients, members of the volunteers, and members of staff in a Daily Bread Food Bank. So that is a form of slander. He's also using personal allegations via, I don't know if he's using them via my YouTube, but he may be using that via my YouTube, which, as we know, as of yet, in social media, there are no federal or provincial laws or territorial laws that can stop someone from saying their own opinions, their own judgments, and their own criticisms on YouTube or social media, as of yet, which is why the Toronto Regional Police, Peel Regional Police, have been able to press charges against people like Jonas Regato, Sandra Long, and Melanie Regato, Lillian Brown, Norma Brown, Murray Smith, everybody, because of the fact that I have revealed the truth, because of the microphone in my hearing aids, my other hearing aids, and the microphone in my ear, which, by the way, I have to go for surgery because the doctor, I went up to my doctor yesterday, and he found it. It was found when I put my new hearing aids in. They have this tiny wire that has to go in and measure the ear pressure. And so if any of you have ever had their hearing tested or your hearing aids, so this tiny wire, and what has happened is because the tiny wire touched the hearing aid, the microphone that is in my ear canal, that I freaked. It was very painful. So when my family physician looked in my ear, he saw a bump, and that there was a little bit of skin over it. That microphone has been there since 2022, so that's 4 years. So it stands to reason that it's in my ear canal, it's embedded, it's shifted, but it also has skin over top of it because it's natural that skin would have grown in. So the odontology unit, I'm probably hoping saying that correctly, over at St. Joseph's Hospital on the Queensway, I guess that's where it is. I've got a referral to have them look at it and to have them remove it. Once it is removed, I'm going to ask them to save it so we can give it to the Toronto Regional Police, which will be clear indication and a clear evidence that Sandra Long and Jonas Grotto and anyone in that office can be charged more so with terrorism phase 1 and 2, because anyone in that office who knew about that microphone, who would speak in through that microphone, anyone and everyone in that office, and they chose not to disconnect them. They chose not to have them at one point, Jonas Grotto had, and not to invoke, I do this on purpose, not to invoke a spirit of death or violence, but he had taken a pistol and he had shot one of the microphones that were connected to Atwell, and I felt a thud in my eardrum. So when I did get my new hearing aids, and those new hearing aids I got, I guess when I did some pressure testing and everything, I was thankful, and I believe our Heavenly Father had done this, that I did not get my ear canal exploded in my ear. But what had happened, I guess, over at Atwell is that pop, pop, pop I hear, and what the pop was is that the microphones that were connected over there had exploded. So, because Jeffrey Wong has decided to align himself with Sandra Long, he too may be charged with terrorism phase 1 and 2, because he was in that office and he was speaking. And anyone else who's tried to align himself with Sandra Long and was in the office at 268 Atwell, like Alison Gibbons, could potentially be charged with terrorism phase 1 and 2. The amount of charges that are coming down at Daily Bread Food Bank, I also want to continue to reiterate that if you as a volunteer, you as a staff member, were ever threatened by Jeffrey Wong, racial slurs or otherwise, to go to your staff members, to go to someone, a staff member, senior staff member at Daily Bread Food Bank, to document dates, to document times, to document exactly what was said, and that way they can give it to the Toronto Regional Police, and that they can actually continuously bring it up against Jeffrey Wong, and Jeffrey Wong can formally be charged. Jeffrey Wong has chosen, like I said, to work out his contract, but the reality is you cannot work out a contract when you've been charged and you're going to prison, right? The other thing is this. I was made aware of a small protest that took place over at 191 Toronto Street. If you continue and you want to do a protest, that's awesome. I said, why did no one contact me, and why has no one, but that's okay. In the future, email me or get on my YouTube and or get on my Facebook posting or my Instagram and say, hey, we're having a protest, come on and join us, and I will. The comment, and I believe I gave it down, that was this, and I further will say this is from me. If you're doing something, if you're doing a protest, if you're doing any kind of rally, protest or anything against what is happening in terms of Jeffrey Wong and the People's and Cultures Department over at Daily Bread Food Bank, I would ask that you make it peaceful. I would ask that you resonate with your voices and not disturb any of the clients, the volunteers, or the staff members that are going in and out of Gate 1 or Gate 2. Plus be careful, because coming in and out of Gate 1 there, that's the police coming off their shifts and going on their shifts. So that's over for the police over in 22nd Division, I think it is. I think that also that if you're going to do that, and I think it's awesome actually, that please be careful and try not to use profanity and call Jeffrey Wong an asshole or Alison Gibbons a bitch or anything like that. Try not to use that profanity, and remember who you are, and remember that you want to make your voice heard. You don't want to be violent. You want just to make your voice heard, and you don't want the police to be involved, because when police are involved and when you use profanity and when you get nasty and you get violent, and that's when it looks bad. You can take a protest, you can do a peaceful protest, you can do that, and you can make your voice heard not only through the colors but also through protesting in front of 191 Toronto Street without having any kind of police involvement. And I know for a fact that they will, over at 191 Toronto Street, the volunteers and the staff members are standing behind you in that. And that's what they want. That just will continue to make it known that Jeffrey Wong, you can't do this. Alison Gibbons, you can't do this. People's and Cultures departments, to my knowledge, are actually developed to help, to guide, and to be there for volunteers and for fellow staff members. People's and Cultures departments are not like Jeffrey Wong and Alison Gibbons used it as a means to control, as a means to threaten, as a means to access other people's I guess residences, as a means to stop relationships, as a means to control their behavior outside of Daily Bread, and as a means to control where they go, how they do it, and what they say. That's not what it's for. They have increasingly, as Jeffrey Wong has done, and Alison Gibbons follows along Jeffrey Wong because Alison Gibbons is a drug addict. She is known to be a drug addict at Daily Bread Food Bank. She feels that she will not attend a meeting. Now let me get into that. There was a letter that has been sent to me that there will be a meeting with the senior staff, with the kitchen staff, and apparently with Mr. Hetherington himself, because what has happened, because of Jeffrey Wong, he could formally be charged. So now, obviously, because of one man, right? He did not think a lot after I left and after the police spoke to him. Apparently, Jeff said, "I didn't want it to go this far. I just wanted her out of Daily Bread. I wanted to go back to where she belongs." She said it was Sandra Long. Sandra Long gave me money, over $280,000. He admitted it to it. He said that I was told just to get her out of Daily Bread. This has gone too far. And then someone asked him, it's been 4 months. He said, the police said, has this ever happened before? And apparently this has happened a couple times before. Once the individual volunteer was violent and aggressive to other volunteers and was asked to leave permanently. Another time the volunteer had been investigated because of her language and her attitude towards other volunteers, and it took 6 weeks to get her back in. Jeff said we never meant for her to call the police. Well, when I see an injustice being done, and when you see an injustice being done, that's where you go. That's where the police are for. That the police are for to handle injustices. They have to go. He is in the enemy's camp, as I so to speak. And when he's lying himself to those in Toronto, and when they are stealing, that is against the law. The enemy has to go by the law. He is losing very much so, because when I said this at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, if I have not received a letter, if I have not received my $300 worth of gift cards, $250, because I was asked to give 300, and I've already received 50, and if I have not received $250 worth of gift cards from the People's and Cultures Department, a letter, the rescinding of the trespassing order, because I cannot access any other food, and his alignment with Sandra Long is now the police's business. But I will file charges, personal charges, against Jeffrey Wong himself, not against the People's and Cultures Department, and not against Daily Bread Food Bank, because Daily Bread Food Bank is needed, and Daily Bread Food Bank, because of the theft of Alison Gibbons and Sandra Long, is now in the red. They're now in the red. And I think I was just watching the CBC News this morning about how the high cost of groceries, the high cost in housing, and the lack of jobs and the high standard of living, and the big three grocery stores store corporations of Sobeys, Metro, and Loblaws, and what they're trying to do to lower the cost of groceries, and different organizations, as well as the comments and statements from the CEO of Food Bank Canada, as well as information from Aurelia, Ontario, and how they're expanding their food bank, and then how in British Columbia and Vancouver, what they're doing on their food bank, and everything. I was watching that on the CBC News this morning. Food banks used to be a Band-Aid, a short term. Food bank is now across this country, across one of the richest countries of the world. The food banks are now a reality. They're not going away. It's not temporary anymore. And it should not be a long-term solution. But unfortunately, with the rising cost of the standards of living and the rising cost of groceries and the rising cost of housing, people are feeling like they have to choose. And what they're choosing is secure housing, and what they're having to do is more and more. 37% was what I said in the Feed Ontario, the Hungry Ontario report in 2025. The 37% are actually employed. 40% has been risen across this country, and 25.5% they said today has been an increase that people. Now, I'm going to get these these figures wrong, but there was an increase of 40% and 25.5%, I believe it was Ontario. I'm not sure. Anyways, Mr. Hetherington himself said there's over 4 million people have used the food banks in the GTA alone. So that actually it has risen. I know in Daily Bread Food Bank, their client base is close to over 1,000. Food banks around have shut down drop-in centers, and all the clients have shifted over to 191 New Toronto Street. So when you have people like Sandra Long making it her business, her side business, instead of being in the ministry, to repeatedly go from here to Niagara, from Scarborough all the way down to Niagara, Hamilton, Wentworth, and different food banks and community cares that give out food and steal it and then resell it to people and then use it as a means to bribe people. That's in order, because people need food to eat, people need food to survive, right? So when you have people like that who have to shut down over up in Scarborough, and 7,000 people have had to relocate their for food access. And when you have people like Sandra Long who align themselves with Dallas and Gibbons, who say, okay, that's redirect food, bring it over to 268 Atwell, redirect it, use the bribe the people who are driving the trucks. And when Sandra Long has stolen over 20,000 pounds of food now, I believe, and has redirected it, has paid for it, and it's put Daily Bread Food Bank at 191 New Toronto Street in the red for when they open their budget and do their budget this year. Food banks are a necessity. To deny someone food is a crime. To deny me food because someone else came in and because Sandra Long wants to make it her quest to come in and to steal my identity and make it her quest to get me out of Etobicoke and receive a lot of money for that is a crime. It's more than a crime, but now she's aligning her. Now she's going to be involved. She has involved people like Jeffrey Wong and Alison Gibbons and paid them handsomely to do so. So once again, I've given till Wednesday at 6 p.m. They know this, and to get a letter to get $250 worth of gift cards, doesn't matter to where, No Frills, Walmart, or wherever, and also a letter to establish meeting to rescind the trespassing warning. And this isn't a threat. This isn't an ultimatum. This is what I've spoken about. Otherwise, Jeffrey Wong will personally be sued for slander, identity theft, and discrimination. And once again, please make your protest peaceful. Try not to engage in people, volunteer staff members, or clients who do not wish to be involved. resonate. Your voice is loud and clear. And if you're out there, stay warm. And I know that the kitchen staff are behind me on this, and they'll probably come out with like soups and coffees, because I heard that's what they did. They came out with coffee and soups and sandwiches. And I thank you for the kitchen staff who did that, like Randy and say. Also, I would like to remind you, please, 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 Jeffrey Wong can't get away with what he's doing. If he's threatened you, if he's used racial slurs, that's a hate crime. If he has, it's serious business. Allison Gibbons as well. But if they threaten you as staff, if they threaten you who are volunteers, please write it down. Please give it to your staff members. Please give it to a senior staff member over there, and know this, Jeffrey Wong is losing, and so is Sandra Long, and so is Josh Sugato, and everybody down there at Atwell. Thank you, have a good day, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.